The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Greigg, and as always, I am here with my amazing co-host, Jacqueline Smith. Remember, the 15-Point Plan is simply a system that makes the ordinary extraordinary, a system that takes our energy levels to the maximum and our stress levels to the least. The goal is to follow this plan and to follow these simple steps and to track these simple steps to give you that energy and to reduce your stress. And today, Jacqueline, we're talking about one of the points that often we might not look at as frequently as the other ones, like movement or hydration or sleep. Today we're talking about learning, right?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite subjects, so I'm excited to talk about it today.
That's right. You know, I love the quote, the more you learn, the more you earn. And today we're looking at a framework. We're going to look at a framework for learning, and it's a simple framework called the 33% rule, right? So when you want to learn something and you really want to focus on the things that you're learning, for example, you want to become a pilot or you want to be a business leader, this framework will help you do that. And again, it's called the 33% rule. So in regards to learning, if you find something that you want to learn, you break this down into three chunks or three categories, right? 33% on each. You want to spend about a third of your time with a mentor, somebody that you look up to, somebody that's done the things that you want to do, somebody that can teach you the things that you want to learn. So a third of your time, or 33%, would be spent with a mentor. Next, you're going to spend a third of your time with your peers. So people that are at a similar level to you, people that are doing the same things as you. And then lastly, you want to spend a third of your time in this box on people that you can mentor. And I was thinking about this, Jacqueline, because last night I had this amazing opportunity to go up to Western Washington University, the college at which I graduated from nearly 20 years ago, which kind of blew me away. And I got to spend some time with some very amazing younger folks talking about real estate, talking about the 15-Point Plan. And I walked out of there so energized. It gave me so much energy, which we talked about on a podcast a couple episodes ago, finding the things that give you energy and the things that take energy. And I realized I get a lot of energy from being a mentor, from sharing things like this that I've learned that helped me in my life. And I walked out of there just so excited to have a group of young students talk about the 15-Point Plan, talk in excitement about learning more. So I got a chance to be that mentor. And with someone like you, Jacqueline, who's a high-level business person, you're a high-level relationship person, you're a high-level 15-Point Plan person, from what I've learned about you is you have, even though people would look at you and think she's got it all figured out, she knows what she's doing, you have mentors in all these categories, right? So talk to us a little bit about that, Jacqueline, about spending a third of your time having a mentor. What does that look like to you?
Well, I've always been, I'd say, a little impatient in a good way, in terms of like, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to spin my wheels trying to figure it out. It's not that I can't figure things out. I'm impatient. I want to, figure it out as quickly as possible. And I want to do it the best way that it can be done. And I find that the best way to, I guess, shorten your trajectory or the learning curve, if you will, is to seek out people who have done what you want to do. And, I think too often we kind of get stuck in this mindset of like, okay, that means I hire a professional coach that's going to coach me in every area of my life. Like you hear of the life coaches, but to me, it's really hard to find one person that is like mastering everything,
Right.
And so I do have different people that I consult with for different things and that coach me in different things. So I do have a personal, I guess I would call it like a personal development coach. I have a business coach. I have someone that I'm working with training me on mobility and fitness. I have someone that I'm working with on my hormones, consulting me on that. And then you have financial consultants. So you seek out, I think. And then I've also had, people that have helped Phil and I, with our marriage and spiritual side of things. So I think it's hard to find one person who's just like nailing life, every single part of it, their health, their marriage, their kids, their parenting, their finances, their business. I haven't found them yet. So that's why
Right.
I think it's good to have different mentors for different things. And I really think that having people who are doing what you want to do in whatever aspect of your life that it's in, it shortens your learning curve. And who doesn't want to do things faster, better, stronger, right, than they could on their own?
100%. And what I hear and what I think of when we talk about that is, gosh, that's a lot of coaches. That must be expensive. And my brain starts to think, what is the cost of all that? What is the cost of all these coaches? But if you look at the opposite side of that, what is the cost of the amount of time we would have to spend to figure all this stuff out on our own?
I mean, it's huge. And I'll tell you this, like I'll just use my business as an example, right? So I partnered with Ben Kinney in 2017. I didn't partner with him because I was failing or trying to solve like this huge gaping problem in my business. I did it for the exact reason we're talking about. I wanted to shorten my trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And so I partnered with him and built my team differently than I would have had I done it on my own. Not that I didn't still have mistakes or setbacks, but I do see other people that are, in my market and then across the nation who started long before me, who were doing it on their own. Um, because for various reasons, they didn't want to give up maybe their autonomy. Maybe they thought they had to give up control. Certainly, when you're in business with partners, there's usually some sort of profit sharing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so people often think like, I want to keep more of all of those things. I want to keep my money. I want to keep my autonomy. I want to keep control. I want to keep my brand. I want to keep all these things. But then, like you just said, the cost, how much money and time and stress I've watched people spend trying to figure it out on their own. And meanwhile, not that it's been a cakewalk for me by any means, but I certainly passed them by
Right.
along the way. And so you could probably look at, if you want to just shave it down simply to just money, though I was sharing profit, I would be pretty confident because I know some of these people's businesses, that have recently even partnered with our organization now years later. They
Right.
ended up doing what I did. Just they
Right.
they spent 8 years, spinning their wheels while I was building. I would bet that our P&Ls, like that there was more profit on my P&L over the years, even though I was sharing it. So that's just like
Right.
one example of like, yeah, it does cost money to have coaches to in all these different areas, but I think it costs more. I mean, it costs more money to not have them, in my opinion.
100%. And I think that was such a great example of it. And you could apply this to things like working out, for example. It's like with all the benefits of a partnership, on the other side come all the downfalls. So if you look at, well, I didn't partner with that person because I didn't want to give up things. Well, by not partnering with somebody or not getting a coach, you're solely responsible for all the downfalls now. Like, let's look at that with personal training or with your health and fitness. Like, we think, well, gosh, it's so expensive to have a personal trainer, says the person that's been trying to cut weight or trying to add muscle for 5 years and never did.
Yeah.
Right? So the amount of time it takes when you have a mentor is vastly expedited. And the people that maybe don't have mentors are the ones that are continuing to try things without results. And then 5 years later or a few years later, they come back around. So it's like we spent so much time trying to figure it out on our own. Imagine you trying to go become a pilot on your own, or me trying to learn Tai Chi on my own by simply reading a book. Like, no, I pay to have somebody that's studied this practice for 30 years. I pay them for 45 minutes every single week so that I can have somebody that's done this for decades show me and critique me and say, hey, Ryan, like try this little technique. Ben, by the way, Jacqueline, I got my first A plus in my last Tai Chi class. I've always been like a B. He's like, okay, that's good, but you could do this, and that's good, but like you could do this. But last week, I was super proud. So that teacher, that mentorship has been paying off for me. So having mentors is going to not only get us further faster, but it's going to prevent us from all those downfalls that we have to then bounce back from, right?
Yeah, I think it's like having a GPS, right? Or a map. And you could drive around the country, trying to find your way. That'll be fun. You'll have some adventures, but you're also burning a lot of gas, which costs money, and time, which, is worth more than money. So it's just having a GPS, and then oftentimes, the tools that you might not know about or take longer to find. I'm sure through some of your coaches in health, they've introduced you to different protocols that have become a part of your routine that you wouldn't have known about, or maybe you'd eventually have found out about them, but years later. So there's all of these different aspects to mentorship. And then I think you mentioned like being the mentor, right? When you become a mentor as well. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to have it all figured out before I can mentor someone. But I've actually used mentorship as a way for me to master certain things. And maybe it's that I'm social to a degree, but I find that if I invite people to do things with me, I'm more likely to do them. And so, with the 15-point plan, I invited people to do a challenge with me when I was struggling with it, because I might let myself down, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
It's so true. And so we've got the people that we learn from. Then we've got our peer group that might think of us as, oh, well, like they're teaching me, but rather we just have people that are now holding us responsible, and they're going to teach us as well. So we've got our group of peers that we add to an accountability group.
Yep.
And then by teaching these things, we have to learn it more. Again, to reference me going up to the university, I spent a good 2 hours preparing for a half-hour talk.
Right.
Because I didn't want to go to a university and not deliver value to these folks. So I'm studying the numbers. I'm looking at stats. I'm writing down my notes. I'm reading my notes out loud. I pull up in my car and I'm reading my things out loud. And I got a great compliment because one of the students said, how have you become such a good public speaker? And I was like, well, thank you. But it's because I practice and because I wanted to show up and deliver. So by teaching, by having people to mentor, I hopefully grew a little bit better as well. So that 33% rule is a great way to look at our framework of how we're spending our time, who we're spending our time with. And if we really want to grow in something or learn something, make sure that we're getting a little bit of all that. If you're only spending time with your peers, you're what's the quote? Like, you're going to be as successful as the 5 people around you. You gotta have people that are doing higher level things. You got to give them value, and you got to find out, how can I earn a little bit of more time with them? So you got your mentors. And then when you've learned something, remember, it's our duty to pass that on. And if you can do that in a way where you're passing that on and you really care about what you're passing on, and you can find people that you care about to pass it on to, then you're going to be studying that even more. And if you can teach something, we all know that if you can teach something, you're going to become better at it, right?
Absolutely. They say the best way to master something is to teach it. And so think of the ways that you teach people. I think sometimes too, like you might overcomplicate it by thinking you have to be doing what like Ryan did last night, going to a university and speaking and teaching at a university. We have so many more opportunities nowadays to teach than ever before, with social media. You teach people. You could post, like I do sometimes, about your cat. But you can use it as a platform to teach people how to think and to teach people the things that you've learned. You can use YouTube, right? A lot of us learn by watching YouTube videos. You could do YouTube videos to teach people. You can teach people just right in your own house, teaching your kids, right? Teaching your
Right.
friends, the peers you mentioned. And then obviously more formal ways of teaching. But there's a lot of ways that you can actually teach. You teach people by inviting people along with you. And I was watching something the other day and they were talking about that concept that now the most successful brands out there, they're what we call come with me brands. They're
Ooh,
like come along with me on this journey. And so if you're in business and you're wanting to build a brand, teaching is actually the best way to do that, just bringing people along the journey with you. It's really powerful. So I love this 33% rule because sometimes we forget how important we might spend a lot of time, like you said, with our peers or with our mentors. Like I might tend to forget to spend some time with my peers because I do spend time with mentors. And I also spend a lot of my time being a mentor, but then
right.
I might be neglecting time with my peers and those relationships that are also important to your growth.
That's right. So, easy framework in regards to the learning category. Look at your time, look at the time that is spent. And when you find things that you want to get better at or that you want to learn at, are you breaking that down and getting a little bit of people that you're learning from, a little bit of people that are at your level, and a little bit of people that you can share your message with? The 33% rule. That way, you can check off that learning box on the 15-point plan and you can track that plan. You can make sure that you're just doing little tweaks every
Mhm.
day. You don't got to be perfect every day. Some days
Nope.
are going to be perfect. Some days are going to be not so perfect. But if you track this and you do a little bit every day and you do this over time, I guarantee you're going to have a little more energy and a little less stress. And don't forget, check winmakegive.com for all of our previous episodes, as well as our whole podcast network. There's a whole heap of other great podcasts from our colleagues on there as well. And as always, if you got some value from this, share it with somebody. Share it and then follow Jacqueline and I on all social media platforms, Ryan Park Greigg and Jacqueline Ray Smith.
Thanks for being here, everyone. And until next time, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye, everyone.